Everyone, welcome back. Full disclosure here, I actually just did this video last night. However, I felt it was sort of rambling, and I thought I'd just do it over again and maybe a little bit more of a organized format. Generally, for my videos, it's totally off script. I just kind of shoot here on my cell phone and kind of go through everything that I feel about a particular product. I don't really have a whole lot of structure. I don't really do them usually in multiple takes. Usually I just do one cut through and then I kind of upload whatever I have from there. So enough about that. At some point I'll probably establish more of a formal format for going over these things. This is the product that I just got yesterday. It's the brand new run of the Southern Pacific -9s from Kato. They've done this one for a lot of years, a couple different road names over the years. This is the most recent one. Generally, I don't cover unboxing, but I think there's some things here worth covering, and some things that were immediately to my joy when I first opened it up. And one, the packaging is a little bit different on these now. So in the past, they used to just give you a bubble wrap sort of sheet over this. This is a little better. And then also, the very first thing that popped out at me is that the details are already applied. That is so great. For anyone that's ever put together a Kato, you know how frustrating it is putting all these detail parts on. So it's nice that they actually come that way now out of the box. Even on the lesser expensive version, not the Kobo Shops version. Part of the appeal of buying the Kobo Shops version is that lock sound's already in it, and you didn't have to put the details on yourself. So now they do that part for you. The other thing that's a little bit different about it is they give you now the handrail protectors, which is just a little piece of styrofoam on either side. This little piece is exactly the same as before. There's also a new little piece, which is this right here, which in the box just goes over the top of the engine there. And the purpose of that is just simply to prevent it from sliding around the box. So that's a little better. Moving on, going over some of the details on this. Out of the box, the only thing that I really noticed with some of the details is that some of the grab irons here and there weren't fully pushed down all the way, so a little bit of work here and there just pushing those down and making sure they're all secure, but pretty well put together from the factory. I didn't really have any issues with parts missing or having fallen out. Just to give you an overview of it here. And again, this is not vastly different from versions that they've done over the years. So the packaging is just a little bit different. One thing that is pretty nice on here is these do have lighted number boards. So there is a piece of light piping that goes to those. And we'll show the internals of it here in just a second, but it has pretty decent LEDs from the factory. I'm pretty happy with them. And of course the ditch lights here on these, they're not flashing ditch lights, so it does make that part a little bit easier. So one light bulb actually pipes out to both the ditch lights, the headlight, and also to the number boards. In the tail, it also uses the typical Kato light piping method, and it just goes out to the tail lights there, which is right up in here. One little detail that they don't really do on these is the MU hoses are not silver tipped. That's a pretty nice, easy thing that you can do on your own. Not too hard to do that, and I'll probably do that at a future point for it. Really love the paint scheme. This is pretty classic for people that are fans of the -9. Overall, it has a pretty nice weight to it. One of the other nice things about the later runs of these is that they have actually a speaker baffle, and you can see the speaker that's in there right in the fuel tank. And then there is a nice little cutout in the frame that actually lets you run the wiring up into the inside of the shell, so it's very easy to wire up. And we'll take a look at the insides here next. One thing I do want to mention about taking these apart, it's probably easier than almost any other manufacturer to do so. And really all you do to take them apart is you're simply going to take the bottom of the front handrail here, See if I can do it one-handed. Well, I'll do that later, but the bottom of this, oh, there we go, just pops out, and you do that on either side. And then for the next part here, there's a little piece right here. That's just going to pop out of there. And then also right here. And you just kind of put that off to the side there. And there's nothing really that you need to do in the back. And then here on the other side, these three just come off. So you pull it off the cab here first. This one comes out. This one just comes up. And that one comes out. So once that's out there, at that point, then you just simply grab the middle of the shell and pull up. Okay, so we have the shell off now, just taking a look at the insides here. You have the classic Kato HM5 motor, which is very, very smooth. These do make a little bit of noise out of the box, and they take some run time to quiet down a little bit. So I haven't run this one enough that it's very quiet just yet. I stuck with the factory LEDs, at least for now. I may switch those out for something brighter at a future point down the road. For the decoder, I used my typical tried and true Locksound Select, which is this guy right here. I picked up two of them. They were programmed for the GEVO. Even though this isn't a GEVO, I just reprogram it. So if you don't have a lock programmer, I recommend actually buying the correct sound file. That way you don't have to worry about doing that part. I happen to have a lock programmer, so I can pretty much take any decoder and put what I want on it. And then that just sits in here very nicely. There is a small 8-pin connector, which I don't think you can see there, but it's kind of tucked in underneath that. All the Kato boards have that on there. Very, very easy for that part of it. And it's very easy to add lubrication to these should you need to, without really removing very much of the body in there. And here's some of the light piping for the front ditch lights. These don't have flashing ditch lights, so it's nice that you don't have to go through the pain of wiring those up. One thing I did notice with the shell is that the little front door on the cab actually was getting some light bleed through. So I actually just removed the cab kind of off of here and took a small piece of electrical tape and just put it on the back side of that so that the cab door doesn't light up when everything else is lit up. But that's really, these are probably the easiest engine possibly that you can put DCC and sound in. I mean, everything is kind of set up and ready to go for you. On the other side here, it does better show. You can see the two wires that run down here. There's a little groove that's cut in the shell, and it actually runs down to the speaker baffle area. So, pretty cool on these that this little fuel tank here just kind of splits apart. And then there's actually a 28 millimeter baffle in there. So typically for 28 millimeter applications, I usually use TCS WOW, which this is what I've used in all of my MTHs thus far. Been very happy with the results. I tried it in this one and I actually wasn't happy with it. So the ESU decoders are capable of running at 4 ohms. This is an 8 ohm speaker, which simply means that it's not getting the most amount of power that the amplifier can put out. So to do that, I went with a 4 ohm speaker. And this is typically the same speaker that I use in my SD70 ACE installs. If I'm running Locksound or something that can support 4 ohms, something like a TCS WOW also supports 4 ohms. Soundtracks typically does not. Intermountain also uses this exact same speaker in their ES44s, which have Locksound also. Pretty nice speaker. So Since the TCS didn't work out, figured I'd try that in there, and it actually sounded quite a bit better. One of the other things that I did also in the speaker baffle area is I did more of the little cotton trick. So I just shaved off a little bit of the cotton here and just kind of packed that in the baffle before I actually put the speaker in there. So the purpose of that is it helps the sound be a little bit more clear, a little bit more bassy. And it worked pretty well on this locomotive also, just as it did on my MTHs. So next we'll put it back together here, and we'll take a look at some of the lights and sounds, which are not vastly different than any of the other Dash 9s. Okay, so we'll go ahead and start it up here, and it's your typical GE lock sound. You can see there the functional ditch lights, headlight, and also, of course, the number boards. This thing has a killer horn. Love that horn. So I'll go ahead and mute it there. So nothing really vastly different there than some of the other MTHs that I've reviewed and put lock sound in there. They're not quite as loud as what the MTHs are because of only having one speaker, but still sounds good. That horn especially sounds amazing. And also the lighting, of course, it's factory LED. Could be a little bit brighter, so could replace those bulbs if need be. But I'm pretty happy with the factory ones for right now. So we'll go on to the final conclusions here now. Okay, so you've saw it, you've heard it. Pretty good overall. Couple last things here. These come with KD's, or not KD's, but Kato's proprietary couplers that are sort of like a knuckle coupler. I took those off and put KD 148s on that, since that's pretty much what I run on all my other things. Very easy to do that also. There's just one screw on the bottom you take out and the whole pocket comes out. Probably about 30 seconds total to switch those out. So very, very easy there. That's one of the nicest things about all these locomotives from Kato, is that pretty much everything that you want to do is very super easy to do. There's not a lot that's required of you. They're very well engineered, very easy to work on. I love them. They're definitely one of my top favorites as far as companies, and I will continue to look forward to their releases and hope that they do a lot more in HO. They're a little bit more popular in N scale, but their HO stuff's pretty good too. So lastly, cost, which is on a lot of people's minds. I picked this up for about $130. That's generally a pretty good price on these. The MTHs that are coming out will probably be about $150 to $160 at their very lowest prices, and that's probably the one item that's coming out that may be a little bit better than this one. For the cost, I definitely feel like to this point it's the best example of the Southern Pacific Dash 9. Athearn has also done this one, however it's pretty poor in comparison. The motor is not nearly as good, the ditch lights are wrong, they don't work at all. Of course, no lighted number boards, no ability to light the number boards. And also their details are very flimsy, delicate, and easy to break. The material that Kato uses, I wish that every manufacturer would use it because it's fantastic. It's realistic looking, it's durable, very easy to work with. Not much more really that you can ask of it as far as that goes. Lastly, I opted to go with this version in cost simply over the Kobo Shops version because for this I paid about $130. For the decoders, about $80, and then the speaker itself is about $7. So if you add that all up, it's going to come out to less than about the $235 that's required of the Kobo Shops version. So for that one, the appeal of those versions previously was that all the detail parts were on for you. Now that the lower end models have that too, there's a little bit less reason to go with the Kobo Shops version. So if you put it all together yourself, it does come out a couple dollars cheaper. So that's why I opted to do it that way. And overall, compared to the MTH putting in similar products, it's going to come out to around $30 to $40 cheaper. And where that cost difference comes in is the MTH is going to be about $20 to $30 more up front than what this one is. The decoder costs are obviously the same. The other consideration is that MTH is going to take two 28mm speakers where the Kato only takes one. So there's an upside and a downside there. As the upside is on the MTH is that it's going to sound better, for sure. But you are also spending $7, $8 more having dual speakers in there, as well as the overall model cost up front. So some things to take into consideration, but I definitely love this. I think it's great. I highly recommend it, both to DC and DCC people alike. Out of the box, it's wired perfectly for DC, so really no issues there out of the box. If you want to put DCC in it, super easy to do that. So for the price, ease of use, drivetrain, really can't ask much more of a product. Kato hits another home run on this one.